Hello everyone and welcome back to another very special episode of Experience Kills. And it's special because for the first time in months and months and months, it's just me and Rob. It's just Ben and Ben and Rob. Hi Rob.
Yeah, hello. It's weird. I'm expecting someone to chirp up any second and say something that isn't you.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say this is going to be an episode of the Bicker Boys. Because we're depending on, I don't know, maybe we're worse when we're with a third person, but we can get into little bickering sessions where we just pick on each other.
Yeah, it's always well meant between us.
Yes,
it's I think it's a sign of how well we get on, the fact that we can do that.
Yeah.
And then still talk.
And not do murder. Yeah.
Basically, yes.
I've finally done out my streaming abode here. I've got all my artwork up on my walls as I've been planning to do for some time. So I'm in a happy place here in my little den of gaming.
I see the Captain America shield. I see you've got a bit of Journey artwork and some Mass Effect artwork as well that you specifically didn't tell me about before the streams were going. I recognised, of course.
I wish you could see my Control artwork a bit better, but that's one of my favourite pieces from this year.
Yeah.
It's such a damn good game. But we're gonna, I don't know, this show's gonna be weird because it's just two of us. It might be really short, but I suspect we'll find stuff to fill it with. You know, I really do. I know what we're like. We'll just go off on tangents and stuff.
Yeah.
So let's quickly talk about what we've been watching, which is how we usually start the show. And in the last week and stuff. And I've not watched a huge amount of stuff. We're going to do a big blowout spoiler topicy section bit on the Mortal Kombat movie because we've both seen that now. But that'll be after the news. But for now, I just want to mention Line of Duty series finale that I watched. Obviously, you haven't seen it because
I've just started. I'm in the second season at the moment. I think I'm 4 episodes in. Let me just check. I'm starting the 5th of 6 episodes, probably with my lunch after this stream is finished. So I'm going to be enjoying that. Keely Hawes, amazing actress.
They're all amazing.
Bloody hell.
They're all amazing. I won't spoil. Every season has a guest star, right?
Yeah.
Which it all revolves around. That's kind of the format. And some of them you'll see, you like go, really, them? And then they're like incredible. You've got one coming up which I would have thought of as like a Hollywood actor, but not as a high caliber one. And then she absolutely kills it. But I'm not going to spoil it for you who any of it is. But it's like once you pop, you can't stop. Like it is compulsive television. Like obviously without spoiling anything, obviously we had the end of what felt like it could be the end of the whole thing in the last week or so on BBC. If they don't come back, this would be a decent conclusion. Though I do feel like they've sown seeds for, you know, that there's a thing that happens sometimes with when you'll see like a hint of a character that might be coming into the show, and basically they've used a very well-known actor for just some pictures. He's never been in the show, and it's like, surely the plan is to have that character and that actor be a big player in a future season, right? Because it would be very strange to have just his picture in it. So that implies that there will be more. I will say, without spoiling, I was a bit underwhelmed by the season finale. It was not the strongest. While one of the revelations we got was kind of like, all right, yeah, okay. There weren't like massive surprises for me, and there's a lot of like beats that are left a bit unresolved. I don't know. It was odd. It was odd to me, this finale.
Have they confirmed that was the last season? Or
no, it just feels like the creator, whose name I've already forgotten, but he's a very busy man. He's in so much demand right now. But I'd be very surprised if it was. It's the most popular thing on BBC. It's like 14 million viewers a week. It's single-handedly brought back appointment television, basically. We're in a world where everything is streamable, people want the binge watch. But we've seen slowly that these shows are coming out now. They're going back to that weekly format, the water cooler show. And it's taken me a little while to readjust, but I really dig that. I really like coming in and to work and talking to my friends every week about the big thing that just happened. It's a fun thing to share, and it gets you excited, and it gives you something to look forward to.
It reminds me of Game of Thrones, because that
Yeah.
always used to be, whenever a season of that would happen, I would watch it first thing at work in the morning, and there are a few people I would then check in with over the next day or two, in various different departments, and go, oh my god, did you see that bit and that bit and that bit? So I really like having those sorts of like events almost, because they stop being shows and start becoming events and bonding situations between friends. So I really like that sort of TV being a thing. So
and I'm excited for you to. I'm excited for you to catch up.
See, I can binge it. This is the thing. I've got nothing planned this afternoon, so Line of Duty, Line of Duty, Line of Duty. There we go.
That's what I did. I only got into it myself 2 years ago, so I did the same thing and caught up to that point. I know it's like one of those things. Like, how was I not watching this for all these years? It's a travesty. I couldn't believe it. But other than that, I don't think I've been watching. We're between big shows right now. I know things like Star Wars Bad Batch came out this week, but I haven't finished the newest season of Clone Wars yet, so I've not dived into that.
You've not seen the last season of Clone Wars?
I'm about halfway through it.
Oh,
so
right. The last 4, I think. It's the last 3 or 4. Just sit down and watch in a row. Don't stop. Don't break. It's a roller coaster and a half. Okay. It's so good.
Okay.
I think it's just the last 3, where with the event that it focuses around. I have just gone back and watched those 3 before in sequence. That they are incredibly well done. But how they do one specific bit with the music and the feeling of what's happening and the stuff. I don't want to spoil too much, because it's Star Wars. You fucking know the story, but what they do, how they do it, really, really well done. Really well done.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I look forward to. I will do that at some point. Yeah, I think for whatever reason I was a bit burnt out on Star Wars animation when that came onto Disney Plus, and I was like, Rebels was ended on such a high for me that I was like, well, I don't know, going backwards to Clone Wars, it felt a bit odd, but it's still very, very good.
I think finale is probably better than Rebels is.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah.
Have you watched anything else this week, or should we get into the news?
I've dabbled a little. I finished watching back the US Office again. The finale still made me get all emotional with Erin, because it always does. And then sort of my easygoing watching when I'm like folding laundry or on my lunch hour at work is Community.
So hold on, Erin, the US Office Erin bit from the final episode.
Yeah, like it always makes me like
the bit with her mum.
Yeah, with the mum and the dad and the like the emotional impacts. He's just really nice. It always just has struck a chord with me. The bit that always also I really quite like is Andy Bernard's quote that you know about the good old days.
Yeah.
If only you could know they were the good old days while you were in them.
Yeah, that is a very good quote. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen that come up a lot recently, actually, for what I'm about to talk about in the news. And I think this is really interesting to me because when you were looking at these show notes, you said, I have no idea what that is.
Not a clue.
And
I still don't.
It's really interesting to me because these guys, specifically 2 of these gentlemen at Giant Bomb, had such an impact on video game journalism, video game coverage. This channel, Experience Kills, probably wouldn't have existed without what they did. Certainly not the format we produce content in wouldn't have existed without their input. So about 14 years ago, a small plucky team of journalists, basically from GameSpot, culling, Jeff Gertzman, Brad Shoemaker, Alex Navarro, who came a bit later, Vinny Caravella, and the late Ryan Davis, who passed away a few years ago, left GameSpot due to a controversy around Jeff Gertzman's review of Kane and Lynch 2, in which he panned the game, and the game had the publishers had put a lot of money into advertising for GameSpot, and there was editorial pressure on him to change his review, and he basically got fired over his integrity around that. So off they went, and they created Giant Bomb. At Giant Bomb, they created a video game site focused around personality-driven coverage rather than games-driven coverage. It was the beginning. It was the progenitor to streaming. It was the progenitor to long-form video game coverage in video format. It basically wouldn't be what it is today, any of that, without what they built on this website. So they invented quick looks. They invented all of that. They invented basically, they're more editorial and more structured than streaming, but streaming wouldn't be streaming if it hadn't had this kind of kickstart at all. So you can't really overstate the influence these guys had. Back then, nearly 15 years ago, video game videos were 1 minute long trailer clips on game trailers. That's kind of all they were. And they created the whole way of personality-driven coverage of games, which is obviously a big part of what we do here at Experience Kills. We're very much about getting to know us and understand our points of view, rather than, trying to do what I think and always have thought is a fallacy of trying to review and cover games from a completely objective standpoint. It's not possible. You can't do that. You will always bring, as a critic, your baggage around a thing in any way with you into it. If you try and review it completely objectively, basically you're trying to be a robot. And what's the point?
Agreed.
There's no point. And they created that.
Try to get me to review a FIFA game, and I'm gonna be bored. I'll go, yeah, I'm sure it's great at football.
Yeah, imagine.
I don't have a clue.
That is perfect. Exactly it, right?
Yeah.
So back in those days, you'd be on the staff of a thing, and I did some of this as well, freelance stuff myself. And you'd be sent a code, and you have no interest in that genre or any affinity for that series, and you're expected to review it in exactly the same way as someone who's a fan, or not, just like a middle ground. It's impossible. You have to somehow remove all of your personality and feeling from that coverage. It's ridiculous, right? So they basically championed this entirely new way of covering games. So we had the news this week, which was very sad, that the writing's been on the wall a little bit at Giant Bomb for a while. The pandemic really changed how they covered games, because one of the beauty of it was there were teams on the East Coast and the West Coast of the US, and they do it all together, physically together in their office. So when they got basically broken up and forced to work from home, it really altered the coverage and what they've done at Giant Bomb, and they've done a fairly good job of adapting. But GameSpot and Giant Bomb, who were both at CBS Interactive, were basically bought out from CBS by a new venture capitalist firm. So things have changed, but they have said their departures here were completely personal and that they weren't forced out. But Vinny Caravella, Alex Navarro, and Brad Shoemaker, all at once, these three founding members, basically, Alex was a few years later, but was very much at the beginning of the process of building the popularity of the site, have left Giant Bomb, and it's really sad to me, and I'm very excited to see Jeff still there and what he does going forwards with the site. But I have been a paid member of Giant Bomb for many, many years. They have a subscription service. Another thing that they did before there was a Patreon, did before that there was a Kickstarter. They kind of looked at alternate ways of funding themselves, because we were just talking about this. You were looking at news on a site, we won't say which, but you were getting annoyed at the ad blocker stuff, right? Because one of the few ways that these websites can generate revenue is through advertising. But like you said, it's very, very ineffective. So Giant Bomb knew about that, but they've stayed around, this tiny independent scrappy site, and they've been owned by a couple of large companies, but they've stayed relevant and stayed mostly autonomous because of their independent revenue stream. So they've done so many things that were trailblazed the whole critical kind of coverage of video games industry. It's, I'm always reluctant to call these people journalists. I'm very careful about that, because there are very few of them that I would actually class as a journalist, because to me that's investigative reporting. People like Patrick Klepek, Jason Schreier, maybe Austin Walker, but I definitely wouldn't say that was Giant Bomb. Giant Bomb have fun talking about games, right? That's what it's
Gamerlists.
Yeah, enthusiast press, is another one that gets used. But they shaped the whole climate that we sit in today in this. I literally can't. There would not be Experience Kills, or I probably wouldn't be doing this if it hadn't been for those guys, right? It's as simple as that. So seeing three of these guys leave, obviously when Ryan passed, it was incredibly shocking. And there's been other members that have come in, Dan Reichert, Austin Walker, Patrick Klepek. They all joined Giant Bomb and have left over the years. They've gone on to do other things. And we've seen that before. Abby Russell recently, Ben Pack, in and out. But these guys were the founding bedrock of this whole and for them to go all at once is really shocking. The community on the Reddit, the community on the website and the forum is shell shocked by this announcement. I was one of them. and my wife's one of them as well. She couldn't help but be a fan because she's been dealing with me listening to these podcasts and watching these videos for 10 bloody odd years, 15 years. So she's over the years grown to connect with these guys just as much as I have. And yeah, it was really shocking. I wish them all the luck in the world, and I really hope that their voices, Vinny's, Alex, and Brad's voices, aren't gone forever from video games. They're not said where they're going. They're all kind of moving away, taking a break from it for now, I think. They're all burnt out. But I hope they come back. They are complete naturals, cornerstones of all of this, and I hope they find a way back to talking about video games. And wherever they go, I will be there. It's as simple as that. I will be there. But yeah, very emotional for me this week.
You are not going to be alone in that. I suspect a very large portion of the audience will follow them to see what they have. Because, like you said, with the personality approach of it, you're following the people. There are certain British ones that I've followed between channels, like the Outside Xbox crew and like the Ellen and Luke. All of those, I followed those from like one channel to another channel because I like their personalities, the way the Outside Xbox crew get on. That's why I watch their videos. It's not their content, it's them. I
think it's really interesting because I obviously latched onto these guys all these years ago. You know, I'm older than you, so it's kind of like I connected earlier to this because you wouldn't. That's why you don't know about them. But I am not overstating this and saying your Outside Xbox guys, none of them would exist without Giant Bomb because the way they cover games is completely a result of what Giant Bomb made happen up from about 14 years ago to today. Like that long form community personality driven group of them coming together to produce videos that would not exist. It would still be dry sound, gameplay broken down into categories, coverage, very basic coverage. And I have seen a slight resurgence of that in late. I think there's a nostalgia driven element to that. But to me, it's garbage. Like, I really hate that. And it just doesn't connect to me anymore. And it's like, that would still be the driving way it was done. So Giant Bomb is the reason it's not that. And it's like, you can't overstate it.
Have you ever met any of the Giant Bomb guys? Or seen them in person?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, because of where they're based and stuff. No, I've never met them. They've never come and done UK trade shows. And I've never had the fortunate sort of ability to bump into them when I was at like Gamescom and stuff and things like that. Well, I imagine looking back, they could have well been there. I just never crossed paths with them when I did those trade events back in the day when I was freelancing. But no, but I mean, I just think their influence is this interestingly, people aren't aware of it. They're aware of it with industry. I was watching this when it happened and like every name in video games was on Twitter shouting about how important they were, wishing them luck. Sad to see them go. Every single one of them, from every outlet, IGN's, Polygons, Eurogame, you name it, they were all talking about it. And it's like, they have done so much for... And the other thing, of course, was when Jeff left under that pressure, it really brought a light to the whole kind of dodgy intersection of business and critiquing games, right? And that, I think, helped make that more transparent and helped, give people a voice where, and, realize that PR realizing that they can't just pressure journalists willy-nilly into giving them the scores they want, and that there is an integrity to these people, and they're not all just buyable and stuff like that. So no, really power to them. Very sad. Excited to see. There's a lot of plans. Jeff hasn't announced what the future holds yet for Giant Bomb. That's coming up in the next week or so. But I'm excited to see what it is. I'm not going to stop subscribing. I'm not going to stop supporting those guys. As long as Giant Bomb exists, I will support Giant Bomb. But I will also be keeping an eye on where Alex, Brad, and Vinny end up because I hope it's not the last we see of them.
It's those personalities you want to follow, the personalities you want to keep up with. I follow one guy on YouTube on his channel because of his DMing skills for the Inside Xbox crew, Johnny Chiodini. He's just a really good DM, and he used to be part of Eurogamer, and he forged his own path on Dicebreaker, and now he's forging his own solo path. And I follow that personality, so I 100% get that logic of going, well, yeah, Vinny, Alex, Brad, you're over there. I'm going over there too, because I've done exactly the same. So
okay, shall we move on? Shall we move on to this kind of giant nebulous story that is Epic versus Apple and the myriads of weird little tidbits that have been coming out of this court case. This so very, very, very top level. This is Epic's challenge to Apple that they should be allowed to do in-app purchases in their app, namely Fortnite, that what started this all off, that would not go through the Apple Store, and therefore Apple would not take a cut. Obviously, when that happened, what happened was Apple pulled Fortnite from iOS, right? And it's still gone, as far as I know. So this is now this whole mess of defining the difference between games and apps and what it means to have games on your platform, what it means to be a platform holder. Oh, it is very complicated, and it has now devolved into this like, Xbox guy said this. It's mudslinging and just like weird stuff coming out of this.
Post-mortem that's going on. Everything's being pulled apart and examined, and weird information is being shared. Like the weirdest bit, The Last of Us 2 got high praise from Xbox's internal review team. Well, no, duh, of course it did. But what relevance does that have? It doesn't. But that's the sort of weird shit we're getting at the moment.
Well, I think that is a thing a lot of people aren't aware of, right? So from time to time, video game journalists, right, enthusiast press, will disappear from an IGN. They'll quit their job, and they'll go and they'll what are they doing? And what they go and do is, for like big publishers and platform holders, they become like an internal review team. So they critique games pre-release to give an indication of where that game is going to score, or they do the same thing for their competitors. So yeah, that is a role within the industry where they're like pet journalists, like, but they're not like still doing that job. So they're just doing it internally for a platform holder or an EA, and like to help them understand, well, based on what I've just seen and played, that game's going to be a 6. You need to punch this up, that up, tidy this bit up, So that sort of helped them with production, but also in this case, point out, wow, there's no one else making games quite like this. So maybe you want to consider making some games like this. Basically,
look at it, do it.
This is very good. Make more. But yeah, that is a thing. That is a thing. So it's a curious thing, but it's I don't know how you get that job, but I don't think those jobs are advertised. But people get asked to do them, sort of thing. It's weird.
You get approached, I feel.
Yeah. What else have we got come out of that? So we got, like you said, Xbox acknowledging The Last of Us Part 2 is really, really good. We've got we got information because we know how we got Xbox. We talked about it last week, reducing their cut of games on the Microsoft platform. We also found out from this that there were in talks to discuss doing the same on the Xbox platform. But it's awkward because that information comes out that they were talking about that, and then they had to come out and go, well, yeah, but we're not. We're not going to.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that.
They've quickly had to go, yeah, we talked about it, we decided no.
It's not.
So
it's not the best way of handling it, is it?
There are some scary figures kind of floating around at the moment. I don't know, because you've read, I can't really get you to guess, but would you want to guess how much Epic paid for it in total for each free game on its store up to September 2019?
It's mad, isn't it? It's crazy money. 12 million, wasn't it?
Insanity. It is $11.65 million.
Okay.
It's madness.
Yeah.
It's 1.4 million for Subnautica alone.
Well, it's good to see that they're paying decent money. For they seem to be fairly remunerating the developers and the publishers for these titles, and it does seem like Epic isn't lowballing. They're playing to win, like they're playing to win here. So
yes, explain why they gave nothing for Metro 2033 Redux.
Well, they probably gave a lot for, I don't know, Last Light or Exodus, I don't know, the newer ones, because 2033 Redux was the first one.
Nope, not on the list.
Sorry?
This is up to 2019, the first 9 months to September 2019. They gave nothing for Metro 2033 Redux.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they must have done some kind of deal with the publisher / developer, because they're not just going to give it to them for free, but they've already got
sort of like later games.
Yeah, they've already got like other game. I'm just looking at that list to see if any other Metros are on there. But yeah, it might be that they did a good back end deal on, say, Exodus, and therefore got 2033 as like a, here you go on then, because that's really old now, like really old. So, but yeah, it could be something like that.
Rebel Galaxy, they got $425,000.
The first one,
yeah,
it's a good game. I think it's better than the second one.
So yeah,
go on.
It's a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, so we also got news that Epic tried to convince Xbox to make their multiplayer free, at the same time as Fortnite had a big push behind a new update. So Sweeney's talking to Phil Spencer, and he's like, "Hey, it'd be sweet if this was the moment you chose to go free. We've been talking about that. Wouldn't that make you nice?" And Phil was just like, "Maybe one day. Chill out."
Soon, TM.
yeah. So that I thought was interesting. There lots of discussion around making Xbox Live Gold for free. Making the free-to-play games available without having to pay. So that was discussed sometime last year, but it's only obviously just happened. So that came out. Whether or not that's a result of said discussions, or if it's actually got more to do with just plans and market strategy and stuff, I don't know. But it does seem to indicate that it could be related, which I think is interesting. What else did we get?
One thing that has come out that I find very interesting: Microsoft has never made money on an Xbox console. They're lost.
I think they've always said that, though. I think they've always said that. I don't think they've ever come out and said otherwise. I know that's been discussed for many generations, as it were. That's just how they've always operated the business. So I didn't find that surprising, but
I always assumed there was some sort of minimal profit. They must at least be breaking even. That was my guess and assumption, at least in the first sort of 6 to 9 months before reductions start hitting in, before big major holidays come round for the second time, like the second Christmas of its release and that sort of thing. That I've always assumed they at least made a profit for that time. So I found that very interesting that they don't.
Yeah. There's more coming, I suspect. This trial is going to drag on for some time. There'll be more mudslinging, more documents, more witnesses taking the stand, and all this crap. I'm quite amazed. It's gone to trial. I am still in shock that this has made it that far. It just shows you how invested Sweeney is at Epic, and it's like this is a real hill for him, as the idiom is, hill to die on. This is something he is passionate about, that he thinks it's bollocks that Apple have this double standard around this closed ecosystem, and he's gonna fight this in every which way possible. But the problem is Apple obviously can lawyer up in a big way as well, and that is what they're doing, and it's not going to be an easy fight for either of them.
Thing is, Apple has always been a nightmare when it comes to it's their way or piss off. They do change though. The most recent iPhones, for example, use USB-C connectors because they were forced to. They will change. You've just got to bitterly fight your way to that change. So if anyone can do it, Epic probably stand a chance because how lawyered up they can get themselves.
My only concern is anytime video games end up in a courtroom, because it can have far-reaching implications when you have things that are to do with legal definitions and legal precedents being set. It can have an effect way beyond Fortnite and Apple and stuff like that, and it will reach out and touch all elements of gaming. Depending on what is found within this, it could have a lot of ramifications. So it's because it's not going to be a simple ruling, is it? Whatever happens, it's probably going to have caveats and all kinds of legal knock-on effects, which are going to make people going forward see things and do things differently. So it's a little bit concerning. If you remember when Mortal Kombat showed up in court, that's where the ratings came from. So it's like that was a huge knock-on effect, because at that point there was no rating systems, and that I believe was a congressional hearing. So I mean that's even nuttier in many ways. But basically because of that, we had the creation of the ESRB in the United States, which knocked on to the PEGI rating system over here, which then turned into the BBFC, where that's now all ratings are wrapped through that. So all of that exists because of Mortal Kombat being pulled up in front of Congress because of its extreme violence, which I still think to this day, you look back at that and you're like, oh, how naive you were. Oh, how naive.
Extreme.
Oh, no, how naive. The beautiful days of innocence of yore. Should we move on though? Because I'm sure we'll be back talking about weird shit coming out of this.
I suspect this is going to become a new sort of semi-weekly feature.
I think so.
This is all done.
I also suspect we've missed stuff because there was so much when I was sifting through the news for this. I was like, oh my god, what didn't come out of this? Like, it's just everything, everything. So mostly it's just Phil Spencer playing it really cool when Sweeney's on the phone to him or like sending him emails. It's Phil getting like, chill, bro. You'll be alright, man.
Sure, whatever. Chill, man. Maybe one day, possibly.
It's Microsoft here. We're
not saying no, not saying yes.
You epic guys, you plucky upstarts. Good luck with your Apple fight. Yeah, well done.
He's trying to keep himself and Xbox out of the way and out of the firing line.
Yeah, he doesn't want to fucking pick a side.
No, he's just quietly going to sit there and go, okay, you two fight over there. I'm just going to quietly sit here and sip beer from my Xbox fridge. That's what he's doing. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. So we'll see with this story, this is exactly what I wanted to happen, but for a different platform. Sony are working with Discord for integration on PlayStations. That saddens me beyond belief, because there's not a Discord app for the Xbox. So when Xbox were trying to buy Discord, I was really happy because I thought, ooh, we'll get an integration app. Yes! No, Sony gets it instead.
Well, it's a weird play. I feel like Discord is playing some ball here. You know, this is strats. I think they turned down Microsoft because they thought the Microsoft offer was a low ball, right? They were not happy with the money on the table.
I'm going to just go back and remind that they approached Microsoft with their figure.
Yeah, you said this last week when I said that, but
yeah,
they approached Microsoft with, we're interested in being acquired, and then Microsoft gave them a number.
Nope. Yes. Discord gave them their number.
Microsoft reportedly made a $10 billion offer to buy the company, is the news story. Microsoft offered $10 billion, right? Discord declined. So I feel
they were
like
recently valued at 7.
Maybe they think they were worth more. So it's like, they then go and start chatting to Sony, don't they? And now we've got this very early days post from Jim Ryan, way before anything's actually becoming reality, saying, we're working to do this and do that, and it's all kind of that language, and it feels like we want more. We're playing ball. We want a bigger offer. Hey, look, you didn't give us what we wanted. We've gone to your competitors here. Nothing's signed completely yet, so maybe you can come back. What do you think? I don't know, man. It feels like games. It feels like there's some brinksmanship going on here. And it's like, I'm curious to see how this does play out. I mean, I'm not sure Discord is that valuable anyway. I mean, Microsoft has got a bunch of tech already doing stuff like this, so...
It's massive. Discord is so much bigger because it's open source. The amount of different bots and stuff. It's probably not open source. That's the wrong wording to use. I think I've made a mistake there. But considering its customizability, which is more what I was aiming for, like the bots you can make on there, the coding that you can put into it yourself, is insanity. It's amazing.
I'm not sure that's the thing. I think it's the brand. It's the power of the brand. Because it's the cool gamer one. It's the one that gamers use. Yeah, let's get that demo. Ooh.
Because it's not owned by one of the big gaming corporations.
Then it'll be owned by one, and it'll be Sony or Microsoft.
It'll be owned by one,
and then it'll be.
They will put their own rules and regulations and content restrictions on there, and then everyone will sod off to a different platform. Else.
Yeah, it's all kind of a bit like irrelevant, to be honest. Saying that, we do use it to produce this podcast, and please don't turn it off. Thank you. Okay, but we'll see what happens. I don't think that's the last of that. I think there's more to come. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Did you want to? Because you just went through this hot list, right? Did you want to pick out some of your favourites and some of the hits here from Microsoft's FPS boost being applied to 74 more back compact games that are available on the Xbox Series S and X, because this isn't confusing to me at all. But anyway, carry on.
Right, so Alien Isolation, now 60 FPS.
That is really good, because that game at 30 feels like shit. So.
Anthem. I'm not reading them one by one. I'm not going to go through all 74.
Please. You're picking out some highlights.
It happens to be A's that have some good highlights.
But Anthem, nobody's going to use that because nobody cares.
People will log in and go, "Huh, that's nice,"
Smooth.
and log off.
Smooth flying.
Assassin's Creed 3 Rogue Remastered, the Ezio Collection, in its entirety, and Unity. They are all now 60.
I think that's really cool that the Ezio Collection at 60 is sweet. Can you point out, because as well, right, I don't know if your list differentiates, because some of them are at frame rates at certain levels on the S, some are at certain levels on the X, and then some of them are at the same level for both, which is kind of confusing. But
so I'm looking at Major Nelson's post.
Sure.
So, yeah, like for example, Anthem, that's 60 frames on the Series X, but not on the Series S, and it's off by default, so you need to go into some settings and get to that. You can get 2 instructions for that through the link in the show notes.
Yeah, the PCification of console gaming continues apace with this, because this is like, mate, this is getting complicated. Complicated. You literally have different specs now depending on the different models of new hardware that came out at the end of last year. It's mad. Good. Choice is good, but it's mad.
It's nothing compared to PCs.
It's getting nothing. It's gonna just get worse. It's just gonna get worse. Anyway, keep going down your list.
You can get modular parts. It's not going to get that much worse. Battlefields 1, 4, Hardline, and 5.
So 4, which was the last modern one, which is a fantastic game.
120
on X, and I think it's 60 on S.
Battlefield 4 is 120 on both, so is Hardline. 1 and Battlefield 5, which probably makes sense that it was the last one as opposed to Battlefield 4. They are both 120 hertz on the Series X, but not on the Series S.
Important to remember, you need a really damn new fancy 4K TV to pull off 120. You might actually find, like I've got, it's easier to get a 120 monitor than it is to get a 120 TV. Like those are still quite rare. So unless you bought a TV in the last sort of 6 to 12 months, you probably don't have one that supports 120.
Dirt 4. That's 120 hertz now on the Series X specifically. I'm just going to call out Dishonored and Dishonored Death of the Outsider, because that's a Bethesda game that is not on Game Pass, Death of the Outsider. Okay. Which is weird.
Yeah, it was that spin-off one, though, isn't it? Yeah, I've got it. It's all right.
The Fallouts, 4 and 76, they're both on at 60 each. The Far Cries, they're all on at 60 each, so 4, 5, New Dawn, Primal. Gears of War 4, I suppose, is worth calling out, but I dislike Gears of War. The Lego games! They're all in mixture of hertzes, or frames per second. So, like Batman 3, Jurassic World, Marvel Superheroes, Ben's tuned out at this point. Incredibles, Worlds, they're all 60, and then you've got like Marvel Superheroes and Avengers, and like The Hobbit, they're all 120 on the X. All of them are 60 on the S. Let's see, who else have we got? Life is Strange. I believe that's a very well thought of series of games. Life is Strange and Life is Strange 2. They're 60 hertz on the X, and Life is Strange 1 is 60 on the S. Let's see.
Are you sure you're not just reading the whole list?
Not the whole list. I'm cutting stuff out.
I'll have a nap.
Right. Fine. Skyrim. 60 frames per second.
Could we not already do that with a mod anyway? I'm pretty sure we could.
Possibly. But yeah, it's a thing. And of course, the essential game that was required to be at 120 frames per second, Untitled Goose Game.
Mate, you need all the frames to appreciate the majesty of that geese.
Oh, yeah. I am going to point out that one actually well-deserving game of that is Titanfall 2, who is also both 120 FPS on both X and S.
Something else to remember about this, there's another thing. To achieve these ridiculous frame rates on some of these games, you might have to play them at a lower resolution. and that depends on the game again. So it's a weird PC world we live in now with consoles. That if you
what?
Do you not know about
When's
this?
that been a thing?
Do you not know about this? All right, okay. Yeah, they're not shouting about this, but on about half of these games, if you want to appreciate 60 frames per second, you got to play it on a lower res. So some of these games that were like enhanced on the 1x, so got 1x patches to like bump the frame rates up, those frame rates then have to come back down to run at the higher frame rates. Sorry, those resolutions have to come back down to run at the high frame rate. Sorry, I got myself confused because it's so confusing. But yeah,
get it right.
They're not shouting about this, but that is why it's a toggle. It's a switch. It's not like just turned on for everybody by default because it does have an impact in other areas. So there is a trade-off. So yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing. But
you can find the full list in our show notes. I've tried to pick out some good quality ones there, apart from Untitled Goose Game.
It's a good game. It's just not my game. I've played it. It's fine.
I'm just poking fun. That's all I'm doing. So yeah, if by all means have a look on the list in the show notes, and hopefully some favourites will be there to get
at least try it. At least try it out. You know.
Yeah.
I've noticed in the last week or so, Series S's and Series X's are like popping up more now, and they seem to be a little bit more available at the moment. And I've seen Amazon replenish some stock, and so maybe you can actually get this hardware. So if you can, give it a go. Give it a go.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to more CD Projekt Red cannot catch a break news. It's not actually Cyberpunk related directly, but it is Witcher 3 /4 related, which we are pretty sure they're working on. But the Witcher 3 director has left CD Projekt Red following an investigation into workplace bullying. So God, that's a fucking name. Konrad Tomaskiewicz, possibly.
I was going to say, good luck.
Thank you.
I'm not going to attempt to not offend by mispronouncing.
Henceforth known as Conrad T, who was the CD Projekt Red director for Witcher 3, has left after being actually investigated, but being found innocent of wrongdoing in this area. He said he's left due to the bad blood. A quote from him, he's announced in an email his resignation, and it says, a lot of people are feeling fear, stress, or discomfort working with me. For all the bad blood I have caused, I am going to depart, basically. And it's like, that's curious, especially as he was supposedly not found guilty of this activities. But
he did then proceed to continue, I'm going to continue working on myself. Changing behaviour is a long and arduous process, but I'm not giving up and I hope to change. Which implies that he wasn't exactly all wings and halos.
I think what we probably got here is that he didn't break any laws. He probably didn't break any specific even employment laws, but he was an overbearing piece of shit. Which we've all worked with those managers. We've all seen those people as higher-ups when they're aggressive or use abusive, disparaging language sometimes, or get aggro, shouting. Maybe at no one in particular, but in a way just stresses out.
Nightmare.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought you were going to say that. Yeah. And maybe in a way that just stresses out the whole team or stresses out individuals, and has a negative impact. So it sounds like, he was one of those, like Gordon Ramsay style. Possibly, I'm guessing, wildly guessing here, but
this is pure speculation.
But he's now left, and it's the bloodletting at CD Projekt Red continues, and it's not a great look.
Where will they get cut next? Is the question.
Just every week there's another story, just another story. So yeah, we got a little story here, that I'm just going to throw out because I thought it was kind of cool to know this. So the new Fable franchise is going to be built on the Forza tech engine. So the tech engine behind the Forza games is going to be what's making the Fable game. That's pretty cool.
I'll take it.
It's a very
the
pretty
Forza
game.
games are amazing. I'll take it. Anything on that engine, sign me up. It's going to be interesting seeing how it corresponds to not racing. Because obviously we spend a lot of time racing in the Forza engine. It's a racing game, moving very fast speeds, high paced, unless you're in really bad class cars. So how's that going to compare to a fantasy open world game? It's going to be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Famously, the last time something like this happened was the Frostbite engine, developed by DICE for the Battlefield games, which EA acquired and basically turned around and said to their entire, like, every game being made by EA had to use that engine. So the FIFA games had to use Frostbite. The Need for Speed games had to use Frostbite. The Star Wars games that weren't, DICE had to use Frostbite. And it caused an Anthem, the Mass Effect game, Andromeda, they're all using Frostbite. And it's like, that caused a huge headache for a lot of those developers when it came to, like, them having already built games on other engines and gotten halfway through development and understood pipelines, and then were asked to completely shift to an entirely new way of working. So an engine, you can't overstate how integral that is to a game. Yeah. It's the language, it's the way all the information is plugged in. Mm-hmm. So to be told that, but I think what we're seeing here, this was being from the ground up. So this is because it's being developed in the UK, where the Forza games are developed. Working very closely with Turn 10 and Playground Games. So they're the guys behind the new Fable. We've seen nothing but that teaser trailer from like 2 years ago, I want to say.
I think so, yeah.
And I'm hyped. I love the Fable games, but what's a Fable game without Lionhead? For good or good or bad, That third Fable game, not great. The first two, though, second one especially, really good games. And but what's Fable without crazy Peter Molyneux calling the shots and making ridiculous promises? I'm not even sure.
I never enjoyed Fable 3. I played it a little bit because I think it was a Games with Gold at one point. I played it. What I really hated was the fact that you had to stand still and concentrate to suck up all the XP stuff and the coins that you dropped. You couldn't just walk around and run over it. You had to stand there and go, there we go, I collected it all. And then move on. So annoying!
Of all the things to... Okay, sure. Clearly you didn't get far enough to find a lot of other things more annoying.
No, because that annoyed me too much and it put me off. Such a weird thing. So I didn't see the bigger problems.
That's such a weird thing. But okay. Sure. But we'll see what that comes. I'm sure it's going to look really nice. I just hope it's fun and does something unique enough to make you go, well, it's not just Dragon Age or whatever. But so, fingers crossed. On to another news story, which I'll take lead on because I don't think Rob cares about The Division.
I'm too ingrained in another shooter-looter franchise that nobody.
Oh, me too. But I love the Division world. I love it. I absolutely, that Clancy world is so grim and just future realist meanness. It's great. And the idea that there are the whole concept of The Division is that you have these good guy, special forces sleeper cells embedded around the country that activate in time of national crisis. Is that not freaking awesome? I mean, come on.
Is that not possible?
I want to be that guy. I will sign up today. I will be in your division. I'll be happy to do it.
But I'm saying that surely that's just possible at this point.
And that's why it's so cool, because everything about the Division is very plausible. It's a little bit awkward, right? Because the first Division, a large portion of the plot is around something called the Dollar Flu, which is a pandemic that spread and does a lot of killing in New York during the winter, and then required... Yeah, it's a little bit awkward now in the world we live in. But obviously it was prior to that. But then we had the Division, we had the Division 2. We've had the really good... I really like the New York-based expansion of the Division 2. But now we've got for Ubisoft to come out with a kind of the Division roadmap for like the new projects, and including the Division Heartland, which is a new free-to-play shooter that's going to be aiming for sometime 21-22, but don't know much about it, but we know it's coming. You've got to remember that Massive, the guys at Ubisoft behind the Division 1 and 2, and they're not working on this because what they're working on right now is the new open-world Star Wars game. So if they're going to be using that sexy-ass engine that they use in the Division... I am very excited to see what that Star Wars game looks like. I cannot wait. Bring that grit. Bring some Division grit. Bring some Division grit to Star Wars. It'd be great.
Can be now, please. Yes. Want game.
I think that's probably
no full sentence. Just need game.
And in addition, we got on this roadmap. There's going to be a big content drop towards the end of the year for the Division 2, the final content drop. There's going to be the Division Mobile after that. There's also going to be a new Division novel. I've read that there's I've read some decent Division novels already, and there's a comic book which I quite like as well. And then after that, a Netflix film is going to be coming out. It's set in the Division universe, and it's starring none other than Jake Gyllenhaal, I believe.
Yeah,
so
Netflix is making a film of everything. They're making bloody Magic the Gathering Netflix content, for God's sake. Netflix are doing everything.
They've got that Assassin's Creed show in progress as well, which I'm really.
I'd forgotten about that.
Just thought I'd remind you.
Ooh.
That's going to be probably really good. So I'm
That's
very much looking
good.
forward to that as well.
Here goes a tangent. I want to watch like Jupiter's Legacy or Jupiter's Saga or whatever it is that just dropped, I think, yesterday. I want to watch that as well. I think I watched it on Duty first and I watched that because that looked really good.
Oh, I thought that was going to be related in some way, but no, you just want to remind yourself.
It's related to Netflix. Tangent, like I said.
It's a good comic if you've never read it. Mark Millar comic, pretty decent comic. So the reviews haven't been amazing for it, but
middle of the road,
seems
which
okay.
suits me fine.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch some. So do you want to hit up the next couple of news stories, Rob?
Yeah, go on. I'll round us off. So, in the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, of course, they've done a lot of work in Mass Effect 1 to attack some problem areas, is how I'm going to phrase it. The least of which, biggest, was the Mako controls.
Mako.
That's the Mako, same thing.
It's not Marco. No, it's not. It's called a Mako.
Okay.
You always do that. You always call it the fucking I don't know why. Is it because it's the shark? Is it a Marco shark? Why do you... It doesn't even have an R in it. Like, why do you call it Marco?
Because I thought that was the pronunciation.
It's Mako. It's Mako.
Well, I won't make that mistake again.
Oh, genius. He's pulled that around.
I have. And simultaneously, everyone's just turned off. No, the Mako, the controls, they were a little bit to be desired, I think, in ME1, weren't they?
Rob, you've not played it.
No, this is why I'm asking.
And all I can say is, most people, fans of Mass Effect 1, have a love-hate relationship with the Mako. I'm absolutely gonna try, because you can turn it off. You can try the old controls.
Thanks for putting through the story. I haven't even got to that bit yet. It's context,
kind of set me up, but yeah, I thought that's what you were doing.
No, I didn't. I asked her what the controls were like.
Anyway, swimmy,
the theory is,
I guess. Not precise, to answer your initial question. Like, a lot of guesswork, hoping.
Basically, the controls were terrible.
I want to go over there, and I've got an 80% chance I'm going to make it. So that was kind of
a good day.
So what you've never experienced, you've not experienced Mass Effect 1. So in Mass Effect 1, there are all these like 90% empty worlds to land on, to like explore, find a prefab building, go in, unlock a chest, and that's kind of it. But to do the exploration, you had to do it in the Mako, because they're often hostile planets where if you're on foot, you slowly like lose your health. So you have to do it in the Mako. So there's lots of like mountain ranges to go over, and they're quite cool. It's a cool concept, right? Obviously, a concept they then wanted to come back to in Andromeda and didn't because of cuts. But it was something they wanted to do. The problem with the Mako was that it's so hard to describe. It looks like an all-terrain tank, right? And yet it feels like a dune buggy. So it's just like floaty and imprecise. You'd roll it all the time. You'd kind of like... It had this thing where you could aim down the sights. It's got a big cannon on it. Aim down the sights. And the shots wouldn't go where you were aiming. Like, they would be a bit under the target reticle. So they fixed all of that, they've said as well. So it actually does what you want it to do. So it sounds like they've added some extra functionality with the controls. They're giving it a bit more weight to it. But, yeah, I'm totally going to try and drive it like it was OG.
Is they fixed it, they've made it work properly, but they've left a toggle in there that you can go back to the terrible way to play. So
I love it.
So I'm not going to even try the terrible way. I'm just going to go the right way. I'm going to go working properly.
I'm so excited about this, mate. I went through the achievement list that leaked yesterday as well. Have you looked through it? So it's 2,900 and something gamer score, which is weird. But what they've done is, so you've got a lot of the same achievements for each of the individual games, but then you also have achievements that apply to across all three. So it's like if you do this in the first game, this in the second game, this in the third game, you get an achievement. So it's really incentivizing people to play all the way through it as well. And they've done things with the first game. The first game had some very hard to get achievements, which required you to basically play through the entire game with different squad mates. You have to play the whole game, every mission with that squad mate to get his achievement. Then play the whole game with that squad mate to get his achievement. So they've now made it so you have to do I think it's 5 missions with a squad mate to get their achievement. So you should, in theory, be able to get, if not all of them, most of them in your first playthrough. There's also achievements around beating all 3 games on the hardest difficulty. I have not done that. I've got Mass Effect 2 is the first game I ever got all the gamer score for. So I have done an insanity playthrough on 2, but I've not done it on the other ones, and I'm not going to do it my first time through. On the legendary. No, it just won't be fun. What it means is you have to play with a very specific class in a very specific way, which is the infiltrator at range. So you have to basically manage enemies at range with a sniper rifle at all times, because if they get in close, you're fucked. So that's kind of the only really cohesive way, at least it was back in the day, to get the insanity playthrough. So, yeah.
I'm really, really hyped for Mass Effect. I've got the Friday off. I've got a plan. I'm going to go to bed super early on the Thursday, and I'm going to wake up early on the Friday and just settle in on the sofa and play. I'm going to make sure I sit at my TV rather than at my desk and play and all sorts. So it's going to be good.
Me and Rob are in discussions of how we're going to cover the game. We are talking about a couple of things right now we might do. So yeah, there'll be stuff that week. When that week and in what format that week, I do not know yet. But we're going to have stuff.
Probably closer to a plan late this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll tell people about it, but yeah, there'll be stuff.
I mean, just for us, we'll have some sort of plan.
The hype is real.
Right, so of course next week, Mass Effect is not the only important thing starting, which is slightly problematic.
So it's Tuesday next week, though, isn't it, for Destiny?
Tuesday,
I'll at least be able to get some in before Mass Effect.
So the next season of Destiny content kicks off next week. On the Tuesday, they will go into maintenance around 3:30, and they will bring everything back for about 5 o'clock. And Season of the Splicer will be the new seasonal content, where we're following Mithrax, the good Fallen, to basically stop the Vex inflicting actual physical darkness on us, because they've basically turned the sun off.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's going to be fun.
6-player matchmake activity.
Yes.
That's cool. That's really cool. I'm down with that. That's a lot of fun.
What will happen is 3 people will do the objective and 3 people will be pillocks in the corner. That's what's going to happen. So
other things I want to shout out: Fallen Babies, which are
the cutest thing. Yet.
The cutest.
Bungie have not ruled out the fact they might make some plushy Fallen Babies.
I thought they announced they were going to do it. I thought I saw that was a real thing.
They are looking into it.
Oh, okay.
They weren't anticipating the popularity, so it's like, okay, we're not saying no, let us have some discussions internally about this, please. So I'm interpreting that as give it 4 weeks, a couple of design rounds, and we'll be seeing plushy Fallen Babies. So we've got a roadmap coming through all the way. This season lasts from May the 11th all the way through August 24th, when season 16, I think, starts.
Crossplay!
Oh, yes, crossplay. This is kind of a filler season. I want to get to that crossplay. That's what I want to do. The big talking point this season is that the first Destiny raid, the Vault of Glass, is returning.
Cool,
I've raided Vault of Glass a few times. I am hyped beyond belief. I'm really, really looking forward to this. I will be raiding for this. They have changed it up. They've kept it as close as they can to the original experience, because they don't want to take it away from anybody, which I really like. But people now go on, they look at all the different kit and weapons they've got on Destiny 2 compared to Destiny 1. They would steamroll it in about 45 minutes. So Bungie have made some changes and they have made some alterations. So it's going to be interesting to see what they've done and how they've done that. So that's going to be very, very interesting to watch the world first raid teams go in, which I'll be watching Datto on the night that this goes live. It's on a Saturday night and it will go live at Reset. I'll be watching Datto's first trip down into the little glass because
I also got Rob into my sexy pro level clan, and we're gonna raid with those boys. Yes. Good bunch there, good bunch of Brits and Americans as well. But it's really good group of guys. I'm really interested to see. Are we still going to be stressing about transmog, or are we going to see it and do it and be like, you know what, it's fine. I'm really curious about how we actually feel about when we do it, when we get hands on it. They're upgrading the helm. There's going to be new stuff in the helm as well, which is, we kind of predicted that as this new seasonal launch location.
It's getting its own spot on the director as well, so you don't have to go into the tower and then look at it. They've made lots of UI updates and lots of improvements there.
I'm really looking forward. Yeah, I am really into the 6-player PvE match-made thing called Overriding Europa. I think more 6-player stuff for everyone is a really good idea.
Yeah.
We've got Trials of Osiris. I just wanted to mention the news that came out this morning. I'm heartbroken. Mother Trucking Hunters won the Guardian Games.
Of course they did. Warlocks always lose.
Well, it wasn't going to be the Titans again, where was it? And then it was like, well, it was never going to be the Warlocks. So it's kind of always going to be the Hunters, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Do you know how much I did? I did 2 strikes, and that's all I did.
Haven't logged on yet. I need to, because I need to get the catalyst for the Heir Apparent, which is an insane machine gun. I need to do that, actually. What I'm most intrigued by on this roadmap, on August 10th, we just have something labelled Epilogue.
So it's 2 weeks, I've heard. 2 weeks of end-of-story content that they're going to add into the season. I like the sound of that. That's cool that they're going to have some kind of
That sounds like another live event.
But over 2 weeks? Like, how does that work?
I reckon story beat live event.
Also, let's just talk about the Tron aesthetic. I am down for it. I can't wait to get me some of this armor. Hello, Eververse.
These guns look sexy.
Yeah, the whole design aesthetic of this, the music in that trailer, the vibe of it. They do a good job of keeping the same groups, the same factions of enemies interesting. They do find ways, don't they? Yeah. We've got Vex, Fallen, Cabal. And that we got Taken and yeah, but it's like really there's not a lot, but they do find ways to keeping that going. While we tread water until an inevitable Destiny 3, but yeah, I'm there. I'll be there. I'll at least try it and I'll see if it hooks me. Last season I was definitely the most engaged I've ever been in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see if this has a similar effect on me.
They have turned around and said that there is not going to be a Destiny 3. I reckon this is going to be like WoW.
Utter bollocks. Don't believe it. I don't believe it. They've roadmapped out the next 2 or 3 years, but I do think we get a Destiny 3. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, they need new threat. Like they're not going to bring in new races. They're not going to bring in new races until a proper numbered sequel.
But that's what the Destiny content vault is for. They brought in the Scorn in an expansion in Forsaken. They were brand new. They brought those in an expansion, not a new game.
I'd already forgotten they existed. That's how
Taken King introduced Taken in an expansion, not a new game.
The Taken are cool, but the Fallen are the Scorn are not.
Just quietly proving you wrong.
That's fine, but it's true. You have a point. I can't wait to meet. Like, we need something. Yeah. We need something that's just the darkness. Like the darkness is going to need its own thing. Like because the Taken is close, but we need a darkness pyramid enemy. Pyramid heads.
I reckon that'll happen in... Oh, God, just silent little pyramid heads running around. I reckon that'll happen in Lightfall, which is the expansion due for 2022? No, 2023.
Maybe,
Because Witch Queen was meant to be 2021,
they put it back.
That's been pushed back to 2022. So, yeah.
Anyway, we should stop talking about Destiny.
We probably should.
We'll probably swing it back. We'll probably come back next week's normal episode. That if we will have a normal episode, won't we? That isn't Mass Effect. Like,
well,
I don't know. I don't know how we're going to do it.
This is why we need to come up with a plan.
We do need to have a plan. Good point. Because Richard's not bothered. Richard's not getting it. So I really don't want to force Richard into a podcast situation where we just talk about Mass Effect for ages and he's sat there bored out of his mind. But we'll see. Also, just well done to Richard. I won't go into personal details, but just so I remember, big thing for him this week. He's worked so hard. He did really well. I'm really proud of him. We're all really proud of him. Nicely done, mate. But let's move on to the topic, shall we?
Yes.
Let's move on to the topic.
So, Mortal Kombat.
Mortal
The movie.
Kombat! Not that's the right movie, but I still can't ever do that. And by the way, Christopher Lambert will always be Raiden to me. Not new guy. Sorry, it's Christopher Lambert or get the fuck out. Just putting that out there.
I've not seen the original Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh!
How are you surprised by this?
I'm not, but you know what I'm going to do? We're going to watch that together at some point. There's a lot of movies we need to watch together at some point.
Yeah.
I need to talk over them and annoy you, but...
Okay, wonderful. Speaking of talking over and annoying you, Mortal Kombat 2021. It's a really fun film. I really enjoyed it.
So...
It was a really good time.
Yes, but with caveats, I guess.
Oh, go on.
So I don't. So we're gonna do spoilers. Why not? If you're really bothered about spoilers for Mortal Kombat, you shouldn't really be. It's not that kind of movie. But also, there's your warning. We're not gonna go through it blow by blow because who has time or inclination for that? But let's have a chat about it in a kind of general way. So I liked some of it. My biggest problem was Cole. That man is the dullest trunk. Oh my! Just why? Why was it? Why was it Cole? Why did we have this? I really like the idea of who Cole is. Right, a descendant of Scorpion. That's really interesting. That legacy concept. That whole idea. I told you there'd be spoilers, by the way. That whole idea of he's inherited the power. You know, he's a descendant. That's really good. But you just cast the most boring cardboard guy you could find to be him, and then gave him really boring powers. It was like, what? He basically becomes man in the Iron Fist, you know, from that terrible kung fu movie. You've probably never seen it. You've never seen it. I don't even need to ask.
Of course I haven't.
But he's just dull. He's just dull. Like,
he was all right.
I tell you who I loved. Kano's amazing. Sonya's amazing. They were both fantastically good, and their back and forth was brilliant. But yeah, Cole, you know, instead we get to see Scorpion fight twice in the whole thing, and instead we get to sit through Cole's boring fighting like repeatedly. And the fact it's Cole fighting Goro, I was like, for Christ's sake, really? Ugh. Ugh. So I don't know how immersed in the lore of the Mortal Kombats you are, Rob.
Not in the slightest.
I'm in that shit deep, bruh. Like, I'm all the way in. I can tell you character names. I can tell you timelines, lineages.
Can tell you character names.
I mean...
that's not really...
Can you? Go on, then.
Sub-Zero, Scorpion.
Go on, carry on. Who else is in it?
Sonya.
Yeah. Sonya what?
Sonya Blade, isn't it?
Yeah, go
on. I've forgotten now every fucking name. Goro.
Because I said that.
Yeah, shut up with your grin.
Shut up with your grin. Great. Yeah. Really loud grin. Go on.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are plenty of other ones.
Other than
No. Let's move on now.
What about interchangeable kind of other Earthrealm champions? The two guys that are there at the temple. Can you tell me their names?
Oh, I want to say Shang-Chi.
No, but that's the evil
in Marvel.
Yeah, yeah, because super generic.
Yeah.
So what about the evil sorcerer then? What's his name?
I watched it a couple of weeks ago, Ben.
Shao Kahn. But you should just know this because deep lore, baby. What about the guy with the teleportingness? That's Cabal.
Raiden.
No, Cabal.
Oh, different teleporter.
The other teleporter. Yeah. What about Liu Kang?
That's it. That's who I was thinking of.
Mr. Ineffectual Fireballs. Oh boy, how pointless were his fireballs?
Spinny
Spinny Hat Man is God. Even I forget that guy's name. He's so boring.
I thought you knew the names.
I do know. It will come back to me in a minute. But Liu Kang's fireballs, he doesn't effectively use them at all until that final confrontation with Cabal. And then it's the only time he pulls them off. Because every time he fired them at anyone else, they either missed or they just sort of went doo-doo-doo, and they didn't do anything.
No, he hits Kano with one when he meets Kano, and Kano like falls back and on his arse, which is quite funny to watch. Kano is made to be, I don't know whether this is lore accurate, but he's a bit of a dick.
Oh no, it's totally accurate. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
He is always an Australian scumbag in every iteration of Kano ever. He is great. I mean, he is just eating up the scenery. Every time he's on the screen, I was like, what is this prick gonna say next? He's just doesn't care. And his then heel turn, as it were, going evil, is like the most obvious thing. Of course he's gonna side with the bad guys. He's got a laser eye. I mean,
it's more of the fact he was originally, when you meet him, imprisoned by Sonya. Of course he was going to be a dick. He's not going to suddenly go, oh, but I was going to attempt an Australian accent. It didn't start off very well, so I'm just not. I'm suddenly going to be good now. No, he's going to continue being a dick.
Is it? Oh, so it's... What did I say the Asian fighter's name was? Liu Kang.
Yeah.
What's the other guy's name?
Oh, with Spinny Hat.
Yeah, Spinny Hat Man. He does get the amazing bit when he kills the flying woman.
And then he does the fatality where it grinds.
Straight out of the game, and then he goes, flawless victory. And it's just like, fucking
But it's the first time Kano fights, and there's that reptile that he rips the heart out of. He just stands there, looks at the guy and goes, Kano wins! And it's just amazing. I love the film from
Can you
that
guess the name?
on.
Can you guess the name of that reptile?
Reptile?
Correct. Hold on.
Because you said it.
Oh, did I? Okay, I gave that away, did I? I thought it's got some decent fights. It's got a huge amount of fan service, which is kind of awesome. I wished, we got the reveal at the end that in a sequel perhaps we're going to meet Johnny Cage, and it's kind of just like, why didn't we just get him instead of Cole? Like, it would have been so much better. Not to mention Johnny and Sonya have a whole thing. Like, they end up having a child in the games together called Cassie Cage. So between the two of them. So there's a whole kind of thing there, which would have been great. I also thought I was really like some of that characterization with Sonya was, I'm the only woman here and I'm just going to be put on the sidelines for half that movie, and it was like, this is kind of awkward. Like, this was a bit, I'm glad, obviously it was leading towards her getting her abilities, but I was just a bit like, this is really, I know where this is going and they've got to earn it sort of thing, but if they don't handle this right, it's just going to feel really gross that she's the only woman and she's not good enough. Constantly being told she's not good enough to be involved with Mortal Kombat. I was also bummed out that we didn't really get the tournament. Like, we got...
Well, this is the thing that I think a lot of people have been saying, is that there was no actual Mortal Kombat in Mortal Kombat, the film.
No.
I'm kind of getting it, because I'm going to try an amazingly heightened analogy and explanation here. Avengers, you didn't run into it where as soon as you got, like Iron Man and Captain America, you fed up to it. Whether they should have called it Mortal Kombat, I don't know, but they wanted that recognizable branding. They wanted to...
Do you think that... Yeah, but this series does not justify 16 different origin stories.
I'm not saying 16 origin stories, but a little bit of lead up and establishment to get the people who don't know the lore, like yourself, more into it. Because
it's not that complicated. There's a tournament. The winner gets control. But for some reason they decided that it'd be more fun to have every fight before the tournament.
Excuse me, my cat is being an arse. Stop it. He's not getting attention, so he is now throwing paperwork everywhere. Yes,
animals are awesome, but yeah, I thought it was odd that there was all sort of Shao Kahn's attempt to win before the tournament, because having the tournament would be too risky, like as a proposition. I thought that was weird, like, because the tournament setting is really fun in the first movie, and it just sort of works. They go to an island. They have like these different fights in different venues, and they kind of do the fight thing, don't they? At the end, where they kind of split them all up, and Raiden just teleports people all around the place because he's not technically allowed to interfere, but he can teleport people, it seems. And then they get then you get the matchups you've been waiting for. You get Sonya taking out Kano and then taking his brand, and it's all about her getting that, and then she's one of them. And it was like we knew from like moment one that's where that was going. So it was kind of like, I was glad they gave. And then the best bit is, of course, because she's so fucking badass, she unlocks her Arcana instantly. She doesn't need to do any kind of fighting or like training to get it. She's just, check out my laser arms, bam bam.
I was going to say, remind me on hers, but yeah.
Oh, the whole Arcana thing, by the way, like, that's new. Like that, I mean, in the games they just sort of can do stuff.
Yeah.
they have abilities, but now they've kind of felt the need to sort of explain them a bit, which was not terrible that they had to sort of
They
unlock
have
them.
to. A film has a different level of critique to it than a game. Yeah, there needs to be explanations and stories and journeys through. You can't just go, bam, event! Because
Yeah,
it's
so
like, well, why?
In the first movie, they just didn't have powers. Like, they didn't have special powers like they do.
Yes, but
in the games.
Goro was a thing?
Yeah, but Goro's from Outworld. So Goro is from Outworld, and he's like a monster dude. So you don't need to really explain that, like from an Earth point of view. But in this, they decided. So in the first movie, the human fighters don't have powers; they're just good fighters. And then in this movie, they wanted to give clearly the human guys some kind of power set as well, because Outworld and the Netherworlds and stuff are really, 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 really powerful. Like they've got so many souped up demon dudes on their side. I will say I loved Sub-Zero and I loved Scorpion. I thought both of those were handled incredibly well.
That fight at the end between them.
That's-
Oh my god.
I wish it would have gone on a bit longer, been a bit more of an interesting setting, perhaps been a bit more ambitious in its choreography. It was good though. It was good. It just wasn't the most exciting thing I've seen, I guess. But you got all the moments you wanted, you know. With the best bit I think being when he stabs Scorpion, the blood comes out, he freezes the blood, turns it into a blood dagger, and then stabs him with the blood dagger. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's. And also Sub-Zero's entrance when he's snowing, and then he uses that, like, becomes his weapon, like, because he's like seeded the ground with water and snow, which he can then freeze and use as projectiles. I thought that was really thought out. They did a lot of good work with Sub-Zero. I really liked it. I think the problem was with Scorpion is that they decided to fucking sideline him for the whole movie, which was a real bummer. But then they completely committed to video game Scorpion with the fire breathing and all of his insane abilities. It's like he was in hell for some reason and he got good. Like in hell, he was like, what is the line? It's like, I was in hell and the fires of hell tried to consume me, but instead I learnt to use them. It's like, okay, cool. How? So
cool.
Cool though.
Really the guy who plays Scorpion was amazing. Definitely high point.
Both him and Sub-Zero are like, I couldn't tell you their names, but they're to me very recognizable Asian actors. I've seen them in lots of stuff, but
they never fail to amaze. They always are amazing.
Yeah,
never disappointed seeing them.
I think the only real letdown was Cole, and I thought Jax was kind of a non character as well.
His little babby arms were quite cute.
I thought that was strange. So he had his arms ripped off by Sub-Zero, which is brutal as fuck. Right, that scene is insane. And then he gets given these shitty robo arms, and then his Arcana, I guess, is better robo arms, which is strangely specific considering he only lost his arms a couple of days previous. So
potentially his Arcana could have been that he would have had armor plates come out over his flesh arms. I mean, and it just sort of adapted into extra stuff.
I mean, the fact is, in the video games, Jax has always had robo arms, so that's kind of the point. I guess they
needed him to have them.
Yeah, and they're cool, I guess. That bit when he's fighting Sub-Zero, right, in the beginning, and he's like, come on, bitch, I've done 6 tours. And my thinking there was, yes, in a military force with a gun, that does not make you very good at hand-to-hand combat. You would have some training, but on the other hand, most of your combat experience would be with weaponry. So help me understand here.
And then Sub-Zero grips the end of the gun, freezes it as the explosion happens,
and then he just punches the gun in half because it's frozen. Yeah. It's like, yep, you got me.
How are those tours doing now?
You're in trouble now, bro. Yeah, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. There's some good matchups. There's some good enemies. I really like the fact that it's a mixture of new and old Mortal Kombat characters. So you've got early ones, but you've also got like later ones like Cabal in there as well. Goro is half decent in his look, though I really wish it hadn't been a fight with Cole, because Cole is just milk toast as characters go. I've just literally a cardboard cutout of a character that really was nothing. Just didn't care. I was quite hoping his family was going to be murdered like Scorpions, and then they would have had that in common. Wow. I was like, sure, why not? Yeah, it's good fatalities, good levels of gore, lots of CGI blood everywhere.
What I liked about the gore was the fact it was not just a gore fest, it was appropriate. Like, it was sensible levels, not just, well, we can rip an arm off, so we will.
appropriate levels of gore. That's certainly one way of putting it.
Something like Saw is just a gore fest. It's
So-
gore for gore's sake.
Yeah, this was the cartoony level of gore you expect from the Mortal Kombat games now. Like the whole thing
proper.
when the woman's cut like bisected down the middle, and it's just a neat cut. Like it doesn't all just flop apart. It's just nicely contained. And the other bit when Cage takes out Melina and she shoots the laser through her midsection, but it's for some reason doesn't take out her spinal column. So she falls down, you can see the spinal column and the blood, and you're like, that's awesome, but it's utterly ridiculous. So it's not at all trying for realism. It's 100% cartoony. So,
We're not even going to begin to talk about the physics of a hat that spins in place.
Well, he somehow used the
no
force to
energy.
recall it, didn't he? It was stuck in the wall. She comes back and then he into the floor and spinning, and then it's a circular saw blade. I was like,
I can just assume that there's like telekinesis is actually his arcana, and he just chooses to have it very focused on his hat.
yeah, I'd hope so. You'd hope his arcana wasn't metal hat.
As for how you catch it without, slicing your hand off,
Not a clue. It was kind of like it reminded me a bit of Cap's shield though. Throughout, he even uses it as shield.
yeah,
a couple
but
of
Cap's
times.
shield doesn't tear people into pieces. It should, but it doesn't. So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
All in all-
definitely enjoy. Moved at a good pace. The first act, they got them to where they needed to be at the temple. I am glad. So where Raiden teleported them, by the way, were all basically stages from the game, like recognizable stages that you're
that's
like,
cool.
oh yeah, I remember fighting there. Oh yeah, I fought in places like that. Yeah, in the game. So that was kind of fun. Raiden was suitably dickish. Raiden definitely is a dick, like, and fucks with people, manipulates people. So they definitely kept that in there, which I thought was good.
I would
liked it.
highly recommend anyone picking this film up and watching it. Highly recommend it.
I think you get a bit more out of it if you know Mortal Kombat a bit, like the games and stuff. I
I knew very little. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I don't think the story in this film is as good as the story in the modern games. The last
Doesn't have to
3
be.
games trilogy have had an absolutely insanely good story mode and stuff, which have been brilliant. They set a really high bar, but this is I still had a good time. Yeah, I didn't think like I was seeing anything particularly new, but at the same time, there's some really funny, silly, good action in there and decent characters. Kano's MVP for me. Absolutely the boss. Like that bit with pulled a heart out of his chest, mate, and nobody else has done that.
Yeah, but the most important thing is Kano wins.
Oh, it's so funny.
What?
So funny.
What? No one says that in a movie. Cap doesn't punch someone, goes, Captain America wins, and then carries on.
And in fact, he was
I
able to
loved it.
deliver that with like a straight face. It's an impressive acting skill right there. Yeah.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I'm up for seeing a sequel. I'm hoping Cage has done well in it, and they cast that. And
Well, they want. There's a community call that Ryan Reynolds should be Johnny Cage.
no, thank you.
Are you not a Reynolds fan?
He's fine. He's just when anybody thinks of a quippy kind of funny character, it should be fucking Ryan Reynolds. No, move on. Find somebody different. He does enough movies like that already. He plays that role in pretty much everything else he does. So no, we do not need Ryan Reynolds in another fucking film. And also, he's going to want a much bigger paycheck than they can afford to pay.
Probably.
Like, way bigger. So there's no way. It'll be someone relatively unknown or obscure, like the rest of the cast is. It's not like you recognise most of those people, is it? Like, I don't know any of them really. I vaguely recognised Sonya's face, but I couldn't tell you from where I know her. But I think I've seen her in a horror movie or something at some point. But no, I don't. Yeah, it won't be Ryan Reynolds. I think they might. Yeah, I think they might do something different with Cage because he's kind of always. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I think maybe we would get Cole replaced by Cage because I don't think Cole needs to be in another one of those. Man with bronze top and boring weapons.
I reckon he'll be in it, but he'll then become a more ancillary character, like Jax was, rather than like a main focus. So I reckon he'll then pivot into Sonya and Johnny, starting to have that chemistry and progress.
Perhaps. I hope so. Right.
I reckon they just didn't want to blow their load a bit too early, if that makes sense. Like, do all the bells and whistles straight away, and then there's nowhere to go if the film's a success. They wanted somewhere to go to, rather than just the thing.
They're still gonna struggle. There's not. I don't know. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Another tournament, I guess. That'll be and maybe we actually get a tournament, which would be good. But yeah, okay. That's Mortal Kombat 2021. Worth checking out. Fun times. Yeah. Definitely worth checking out. Should we talk about some of the games we've been playing this week, Rob?
Oh, go on.
Do you want to start?
I've not been playing anything original or exciting in any way, shape, or form, so I'm going to be nice and quick. I've done a bit of Minecraft, but I've had a few weird visual glitches, which are all like my clients, so I've been trying to resolve those, and I've managed to lose the waypoints to my base. So, yeah, I need my friend to come onto the server and tell me where my base is.
You broke Minecraft. Hilarious.
No. I dabbled a bit in Black Ops 3 and Monopoly with a friend of mine on Xbox Live this week. We had some good games.
Such a great double bill.
Yep. It's our classic double bill. He managed to get Monopoly into a broken game state by having no money or properties whilst being in prison or in jail and had run out of money to pay. So he couldn't get out, but the game wouldn't move on because he needed to pay to get out, but he couldn't get out. But the game wouldn't move on because he needed to pay to get out, but he couldn't pay to get out, etc.
Fun.
It was very funny. And I've dabbled a bit in Total War Warhammer 2. We've got a tease for Total War Warhammer 3 next week, which I will be talking about because we're getting a gameplay trailer and a new trailer for that as well. So I will make sure to talk more about that next week in our podcast. I'm sure Ben will give me like 90 seconds to mention it.
At least I've played the games now, so I have an understanding of it a bit better. But
the third one is out this year. I'm very excited. So I've been doing that whilst watching Line of Duty, because it's not a game I have to pay like loads of attention to and can like split my attention easily. So yeah. What about yourself? What have you been playing?
I played an hour of a new little game in early access called Distant Kingdoms, and that is a town builder / colony builder set in a fantasy setting. And the unique sort of mechanics here come around the idea that rather than just having your town full of humans, you end up having to have different races. So there's elves, orcs, humans, and dwarves, and obviously they have kind of different needs. They have different pros and cons about making them like you getting them to live together, and balance that out and like balance their different needs. So that management element is fresh. And then in addition, there's like an adventure mode in which you can send off, typical kind of fantasy party members to explore various hexes to expand your buildable territory, and in those hexes they might have various challenges, and it's kind of a bit of a choose your own adventure novel element as well on top of the colony builder sort of concept. So there's some fresh concepts at play here, and I actually quite dug that. The only problem is when I streamed it, do watch the stream, so I won't spend too much time, do watch the stream. It gives a good overview of the game from a very early point, playing through the tutorial and stuff. But problem I had, I was going through the tutorial, and I broke the pathing. So the tutorial told me to do something, and I was unable to do it. So the game just sort of stopped. And you can't save in the tutorial. I was like, oh, I know, I'll save and reload. See if that... Nope, can't do that. So I think I'm going to come back to that game once we've had a few more releases and see where things are at and if the stability's improved. But I didn't intentionally break it. It just stopped. Of course. No, I was just doing stuff it was telling me to do, and it just stopped working. Don't blame me. Blame
No, I will blame you exclusively.
In addition, I picked up a very, very cheap, I think it was under £1 on Xbox, an endless runner set in a kind of retro aesthetic 80s world called Top Run. Obviously a play on Top Gun. And you're running along, you got a dog with you. It's got a really fun chip sort of tune soundtrack, and it's got a really nice pixel art aesthetic. If you haven't played an endless runner in a while, this is a very good one. And if you can pick it up reasonably like I did in a sale, some nice achievements. And it's, the thing about an endless runner is you just do another round, do another round, do another round. It's like endless gameplay because it's an endless runner.
But in that, is there a lot of risk involved? In Top Run, are you in the danger zone?
Oh, I tell you what, you're not in the danger zone, but you are on the highway to it. There you go.
There we go.
Because you're running. It's an endless runner on the highway to the danger zone. See, it makes sense. It makes sense. But no, I actually really like this game. It's a tiny little thing, but it's got various different types of enemies and power-ups and objectives, and it incentivizes you to keep going, keep having another go. It's really top-tier endless runner, you know, and it probably works beautifully. I imagine there's an iOS mobile version of this, whatever, Android. But, you know, you don't see a lot of them on the main consoles, these types of games. And if, like me, you can pick it up for, you know, less than a pint, I'd say it's definitely worth a punt. And I'm also playing, I'm back in heavy because it's on TV a lot at the moment. I'm back into F1 2020. I've got my pre-order ready for 2021, which comes out in July. But I'm just loving the racing, baby. I'm just loving the racing, like the challenge of it. That there's nothing better than the F1 games for like hardcore racing sim. It's so much fun, especially with the mode now where you have your own team with your own livery. You know, you're developing your own car as you go through the season. So you're so freaking invested in all the elements of it. So there's management elements as well as the racing elements. And it's just great. I can't wait to see what they do with the new one. I won't spend too much time on it, but I love it.
It was really good, actually. Grosjean has been back in the car this week.
He's
doing tests again.
What the fuck, Rob? Excuse me? What?
I casually follow F1.
What the fuck? Like, nobody except me. What are you doing? You're freaking me out, man. You're freaking me out. But yes, testing for Mercedes. After obviously really that horrific crash, that it's genuinely a miracle that man walked away from that. I think I've talked about it before, but that's one of the hardest things I've ever watched because I was watching that race live. So when that happened, I was sat next to my wife, fist in my mouth, he's dead. We just watched a man die. We just watched a man die, and it's truly upsetting stuff. That is like, God, the feeling of him getting out of that, and he's on his feet, and it's like, you know, it's just at the end of the day, all he did was really burn his hands, and it's like, that's incredible. God, it's a
testament to the engineering behind the cars.
It's just a lot of luck. The way he went through that barrier. The fact that he wasn't upside down, he wasn't pinned in that cockpit, you know, when the fire was engulfing it, you know, he was able to get out. It's just... Anyway, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other show. But yeah, race happening right now. Quali's about to run as we're recording for Spain. Barcelona de Catalunya Grand Prix. Good track, really good track, really technical track. So
do they do a good job in the F1 games of replicating the tracks?
Oh God, yes. That's like the whole thing. Car modelling and track modelling is the whole point of the experience, really. Okay. It's one of those games where obviously you can't simulate the G-forces of driving an F1 car, right? But what you can simulate is there is a level of mental focus required. And even if you're not doing a full-length race, this is not a game you can play and not give 100% attention to. You know, you are changing things while you race, like the drivers do. You know, adjusting brake diff, adjusting all kinds of elements of the car, depending on how hard you play it and sim heavy you play it. But like, it really does. What I always love to do is I will race on the track prior to watching the Grand Prix that weekend, because it really does teach you about what they're going through, and you know, understanding the break points, understanding where the overtaking is, how to take advantage of the DRS, when you're going to have the best chance for overtakes and stuff like that. It really is cool, like how accurate the sim is, because you can play a game of FIFA, right? But that, because of the nature of football, right, and most sports, you have to, you know, unless you're physically at your peak playing that sport, you won't really simulate the experience. When you're driving, especially if you have wheel set up, you can get pretty close, 75% of the way there to the reality of the experience, I would say, you know. So that's something you can't get from many sports games, you know. So it's quite cool that you can learn a lot from playing them. Like, they do an incredible job, Codemasters. Very interesting this year to see how well Cody's does under EA, what we get out of this game, if there's going to be any drastic changes to the experience. I really hope not.
Microtransactions.
No, I think they're going to stick to the kind of minimal. They have a season pass system in place, and I don't think they're going to overdo it.
EA.
Yeah, but there's no Ultimate Team. They've said they're not doing that. So
I never said Ultimate Team. I said microtransactions.
Yeah, but there already are cosmetic microtransactions that Codemasters brought in this edition, which you can completely ignore if you wish. And there are there's a season pass model. So like more like a battle pass model,
Okay.
I should say, right? So you can like with same with Destiny, you can buy in. If you buy in, you get more, but there's a free tier as well.
Some.
Yeah, so it's one of those models, which is works fine for this. But this year it's big story mode. Supposedly we're going to get 2021 big story mode. Never played a racing game where that's worked, so I'm curious to see if they pull it off. I've played a few where they tried that, especially in the 360 PS3 generation. Toka Race Driver and stuff like that had story modes, and they were all terrible, all of them. So
Forza Horizon 4 is the best story mode racing game I think that's been around because they don't emphasize it. It's
Forza Horizon.
Yeah,
doesn't have a story.
That's what makes it a good story because it doesn't get in the way of what's the main thing about that game.
What there are some characters that talk at you, but there's no story.
It's the story that you're trying to compete and become like the most influential and win the most races and level up your experience in an event, so you then get access to more. It's the barest hint of one, but I think that's what works nicely in a racing game like that, because you're there for the racing, you're not there for the characterizations.
Judging by the teaser trailer we got for this, which is Breakpoint, I think they're going to try and convey kind of like rivalries and the stress and of trying to compete at this level. I have played good sports story games. I have to say the Journey stories in FIFA, Alex Hunter's trilogy of games where that story, the Hunters I should say, not necessarily just Alex, that's really, really well done. That's really, really well done. And then also Madden a couple of years ago did a really good story as well. So that there have been good story modes in sports games. It's just a racing game because it's not about sort of one-to-one physical interaction, right? You're in vehicles, so it's not like you're on a pitch and your rival's there and you slide tackle him, and that gives you a story beat. I mean, all you can do in a racing game is crash into a football, isn't it? I mean, like, what?
Yes.
But that's not what you can do in F1.
Generally
because
how I play.
Crashing is not something you want to do in an F1 game. It's about avoiding that. You never want to make contact if you can avoid it. So I'm curious. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But so I think that brings us to the end of this podcast.
I think it does.
What I can tell you is we will be back next week in some form, in or around Saturday or Sunday, whether or not that's all about Mass Effect or something else, and we come back with a special Mass Effect. Who knows at this point? We will be talking about the plans this week. But one way or another, there will be Mass Effect. I can tell you that. There will be. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. You can also find me at Experience Kills. Collectively, that's not me, that's the collective. I'm doing well here, great sign off. You can find me specifically at DIYE, and you can find Rob specifically at Homeless Mr. Gibbs. Not here today is Richard. You can find him at Colonel Red, and there's also Cameron, who normally would have been with us on this podcast. He's currently changing careers, and
he's had a good change of circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely.
His schedule's a little bit TBD at the moment.
So things are a bit up in the air, so hopefully we can get him back on soon. Definitely want him on to talk about Mass Effect. But he's still about, so he's still part of the family. And you can find him at Camelot on Twitter. Like I say, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube, but do remember we are available anywhere a good podcast can be found, and I do mean anywhere. And if you find somewhere we're not, you tell me. You tell me, and I promise you, I will make that happen. I promise you. I give you the Experience Kills guarantee. In stone, baby, in stone. What else? Is that everything? Oh yeah, mustn't forget now, I've remembered this time, we're now streaming on Twitch. Do follow us. I think, is it following? Subscribing?
Yes, follow on Twitch.
Follow on Twitch.
There's a paid option to subscribe to people, but I don't know how it works.
We don't have that. We're not a Twitch affiliate. I don't think that works with us.
Not interested.
But yeah, do follow us on Twitch for more of the, if you want to watch the podcast live and get notified that. But obviously I'm doing streaming now. We're streaming on YouTube and Twitch, playing games. Not a particularly coherent day or anything yet, but whenever I've got something interesting that I want to do, like I did with Distant Kingdoms last week, I might jump on the streams and give you guys a thorough look into it. And I'm experimenting and trying to get better at all this, so any feedback would be most welcome, and what you would like to see from what we're offering going forwards. And there's always more games, there's always more things to talk about. Oh man, it's all about Mass Effect now though. Just 6 days, Rob. 6 days.
Friday. Just gotta wait till Friday.
6 days. Right, until next time, we can say goodbye.
Till next time.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody. Have a lovely week.